Thank you for joining us tonight with an evening with Reyna. My name is Thea Rodemaker, and my company, Flint Hills Publishing, has the honor of working with this amazing woman who inspires us with her clarity and her wisdom. Hello, Reyna. How are you doing?
Hi, Thea. I'm really excited to be here, and I want to welcome everybody that's joining us tonight. Thank you for coming.
Oh, well, it's such an honor to get to talk to you, for you to take time from your busy schedule to actually sit down for a minute. Our connection got started when we were working together on the publication of your book, In My Hands, Stories of the Land and Animals I Love But Can't See. And we're certainly going to be talking a lot more tonight about your work as an author. But you and I have talked about the fact that the first thing we want to talk about is your vision and how much you can actually see, if you could share that with us. And then also if you could talk a bit about our vocabulary. How do you feel about the word blind as opposed to visually impaired?
Mm-hmm. Well, to answer the first question, I can basically see light and dark. I can see shadows, contrasts. I can see just blurry, muddled stuff, I guess you would say. So I can't recognize faces. I can see the rough outline of objects, but I don't necessarily know what they are. I, along with a lot of other blind people, call ourselves blind. There's nothing wrong with that word. But what I have found is that a lot of times people can't catch that word. So I caught myself when I did an interview on a local news channel earlier today, and I caught myself using the word visually impaired because people kind of hear that better. So I'll refer to myself as a blind person, but when I'm telling somebody, oh, I'm visually impaired or I'm low vision, I find that they just hear it a little better and they can kind of process it more smoothly without going, you're what? Oh. So yeah, either way, I'm not very PC about it, but I mean, either blind, visually impaired, whatever you're more comfortable with, I'm comfortable with.
That certainly reflects your personality. You're laid back, you have a great sense of humor, and so that just makes it so easy to talk to you. You've had a lot of fascinating life experiences and jobs in your life, but can you tell us about what your life is like today?
My life today is super incredibly busy and fun. I get up before dawn, I go to bed long after dark. I am a dog and goat mama, is how I like to refer to myself. I have, we'll get into a little more about the different critters that I have here later on in the session, but I raise dairy goats, so I milk twice a day, 10 months out of every year. I bottle feed baby goats in the spring through part of the summer as they grow up. And I've learned to make all kinds of stuff out of the milk, cheese and yogurt and soap. And it's amazing what you can do with goat's milk. I also, the other side of my life is that I train and show various different breeds of dogs in various different American Kennel Club sports and events. So the rest of my time often goes to exercising the dogs mentally and physically. We do a lot of walking, we do a lot of training, and then I crash into bed at the end of a very long and full day.
Well, Rena, I often tell people that the way you navigate life has to be seen to be believed. And so that's why we prepared a video that we're going to be debuting tonight. Okay, and so everybody can sit back and enjoy.
Dundee is an Australian Shepherd, and of all of my dogs, he has been with me the longest. And he was kind of my first utility dog in the obedience ring. So he's kind of the first dog that I've ever trained to that level. And this is Tassie. Tassie's a smooth collie, and she's involved in all kinds of stuff. Barn hunt, obedience, tracking. She helps with the goats, and she's a really good snuggler. And this is Jem. Can you tell she's a border collie? Not only is she very high energy still, even though she's getting to be an older dog, she helps me with the goats. She's my most reliable stock dog if I ever need one, which isn't too often. Most of the time I can barely get them away from me, but if I ever need a dog to get out and move them, this is the one I call for the job. So she is a good working farm dog. And this is the other border collie. Can you tell? This is Meg. Meg is one of my best obedience dogs. She has absolutely zero herding instinct, but she loves working in the ring, doing obedience, and we've done some rally with Meg as well. So she was, again, like Dundee, she was one of my first dogs to really train pretty far in the obedience ring. And this is Cinder. Cinder is a Russian Balanka. So if anybody ever wondered about those Russians, I guess I'm in collusion. He is an obedience dog. He does barn hunts, and he's also my smallest kid. I don't know how he can see, but he does better than I do. This is Brio. She's a miniature Australian Shepherd, and she lives up to her name. She's trying so hard to sit in heel position. She is still a working obedience dog. We've also gone pretty far in rally with this dog, and she is currently working the open level of obedience. None of you out there will care, but she and I really do. Couldn't keep up with that one. Aw, look at him. He's trying so hard to be an obedience dog. This is Banner. He's my other new kid. Yes, there is a person behind that camera. He's my other new kid. I've had him a little more than a year. He is a whippet. In other words, he's a racing machine, but I want to do obedience with him, and I'd like to do tricks with him just to make it a little different, kind of a non-traditional breed, and we'll just see what he does. But I've wanted a greyhound ever since I was about 14, and I finally got the smaller version last September of 19. This is Butterscotch. Butterscotch is one of my new kids. I've had him about 10 months, and he is a miniature golden doodle. He is kind of like a rug right now. He's involved in obedience and tricks, and we're working on barn hunt with this guy as well. And you just want to sit there and pet him all day. Oh, buddy. And this is Cola. She's a Newfoundland, and she doesn't do anything. She's just lovey and sweet. She sits back and watches all the other dogs work and cheers them on.
Reyna, the first time I visited you on your farm, I couldn't process really what I was seeing you do. And I realized, I think it was because I had a limited view of what it meant to not be able to see, but you defy limitation. I also think that a lot of those skills, the way that you observe the world, has really honed your writing skills. So could you talk about how you think your life experiences have shaped your writing, and what is your writing process?
Well, the first thing I can think of is that when I was little, and we're talking about before I can even remember, probably 3, 4 years old, my mom and dad read to me, and all kinds of stuff. I was raised on Little House on the Prairie and The Call of the Wild and all kinds of children and on up, even into some adult books. And they both read to me every day. And that I think instilled in me a love of not only reading, but storytelling, the process of storytelling. Um, the other side of that too is that I was raised overseas. I was raised as a missionary kid and in the Philippines. And then when we came back to the States, my dad took a couple of pastoring jobs and teaching jobs. So I moved around a lot. I obviously lived on the other side of the world, but I also moved here to the West Coast and the East Coast and a couple places in between. And I didn't have many friends. So what I found was solace in my books. And they were always there. The characters in those books and those stories were my friends, and the books were constant. And I think that gave me a joy in the process of telling a story and enjoying a good book. I would also say that part of it comes down to my training in journalism. I did work as a reporter for 2 or 3 years here at the Topeka Capital Journal here locally. And I'd say that really helped me to learn how to use words. A good example would be, action verbs. Action verbs are important. I think that training I've learned through that how to pace my writing, how to keep it moving forward. If you'll notice in my writing, I use a lot of short sentences, and I use some vivid descriptions and vivid action verbs. And I think that all goes back to being a reporter. It dies hard. My writing process, though, okay, the first thing I have to do is make sure all my chores are done. And that usually means obviously doing the goat stuff, milking, bottle feeding, turning everybody out on pasture, making sure they have hay and grain and water and everything else they need. Then I have to take the dogs for a walk, because if I don't, they bug me. And nobody can write a book when they're being bugged by 9 dogs. So we go out on the road for a couple of hours, and they run themselves silly, and I come home and grab lunch, breathe a sigh of relief, and then I can usually crash in front of the computer because everybody is tired, except me. I have to keep going. And I do work on a desktop computer. It's equipped with adaptive technology. So what that does is it takes any text on the screen and it turns it into speech. So whether I'm reading an email or writing an email or surfing a website or writing a book, it will read whatever is on the screen and just convert it into synthetic speech. So that's roughly my process. I've found too that when I do write a passage, it's very helpful for me to then listen to it read out loud, whether that's by the computer or better yet, by usually my mom, who volunteers to sit down and actually read it. And that way I can hear the pacing of it for myself. So that's very helpful.
Well, we've seen that you have quite a connection with animals, and I think there's a little visitor here tonight, maybe, who might want to make an appearance.
I will get him. Are you awake?
And Reyna, I'm wondering if you could talk about the therapeutic and the emotional benefits of owning and interacting with pets.
Yeah, well, we do have a special guest. Here he is. This is Cinder from the video. He like I said on my video, he's the smallest of my kiddos, so he can sit in my lap and help us with this, or help me, because I would say, you know, I think we all kind of know there's been a lot of even clinical research about the benefits of animals. You know, you see therapy animals, especially dogs, but not just dogs, all kinds of animals that now go into retirement homes and children's hospitals and schools and even airports, you know, and everything. They're very welcome now because people have recognized medically that animals calm people. They calm anxiety, they lower your blood pressure. You know, they're meant to be with us, I think. So for me personally, um, you know, like right now, this little guy is helping me to just be focused and be calm. I have not been a very brave person for all of my life. The dogs particularly have helped me to come out of my shell. You know, especially as a elementary school kid up into my teen and college years, I was very, very shy. And that was about the time when I was just getting into college that I started also to get into training dogs. And I discovered that they give me just about as much socialization as I give them, if not more. Because, you know, if you're going to get out there and work your dog, you have to take it places, you have to go to classes and shows and talk to judges and ask questions and answer questions. And, you know, all of a sudden I couldn't be shy anymore, not if I wanted to do this. So the dogs have helped me tremendously as far as just being emotional support animals, but they've also gotten me out. The dogs and the goats both do this. They get me out physically. I walk probably 30 to 40 miles every week with the dogs. And that's pretty good exercise in all kinds of weather. The goats have gotten me into more of a physical routine. I get up in the morning because I've got to milk goats. I had 17 baby goats that I raised this year. They need to be fed, you know, and they're not going to do it themselves. So I've got to get up and get at them fairly early. And then they also kind of get me, I mean, I'm bucking bales of hay and I'm shoving a wheelbarrow around and I'm carrying sacks of grain and I get work. I get a good workout because of those critters. So they've helped me a great deal physically as well. But I think mostly they've given me stability. I tend to be the kind of person that leans toward melancholy a little bit, and the animals force me to move forward. I can't get frustrated and I can't get down and stay that way when I have so many depending on me who give so much back in return.
Well, the first time I met you and I walked into your living room, I was encircled by 9 perfectly behaved dogs who sat there and all they did was give me love. It was a marvelous, uplifting experience. So I can definitely vouch for the love from your dogs. When we were working on your project, one of the things that was really important was that we have a copy of the book that you were able to read. And so we were able to have a Braille version of the book created. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about Braille, that process, reading that way. And then you are going to read from your Braille book, give us a little selection.
Let me, I'm going to grab a book here and show it to people. Most people have probably seen Braille in the elevators and men's and women's restrooms. They usually have Braille on the walls and people, you know, rub their hands over and go, ooh, I wonder how that works. Braille is set it back over here. It's a 6-dot system. There are what they call cells, and each Braille cell has 6 dots, which are then configured into different patterns. People will always ask me, let me grab this again, because people will ask me, well, can you feel what's on the other side? Because it's a double-sided page here. And the answer is no. The holes that are punched like right here, you can't feel these. These are on the other side of the page. So it is a system that will work double-sided, which is nice. It does take up a lot of space. So I will be reading tonight out of 2 separate volumes. My book, you know, as a print book is something like, I don't know, 200 pages, 250, something like that. But in Braille, it's in about 8 volumes, I believe, because Braille does take up, it's bulky, it takes a lot of space. So I thought I've got 2 fairly short selections I wanted to read tonight. One of them is actually, and they both are out of the In My Hands book. One of them is the actual introduction to the book, which covers a little bit of the same ground that we've been talking about, but I write it a lot better than I speak it. So I just wanted to kind of get it out there, get people introduced to me. And this is how the book actually begins. And then the next selection will be, the way I divided this book was into the 4 different seasons. So we begin with autumn and we work through winter, spring, and then summer is the last section. And when Thea and I were talking about this, she said, well, do you want to read out of the winter section? Because, you know, it's winter. And I was like, no, it's cold. I don't want to make people even colder when I read the winter section, because ideally by writing, I'm going to bring you to where I am in the story, in the season, in the weather, whatever. So I decided to pick the summer selection because I don't want to be cold when I read my own book. So unless, Thea, do you have any more questions, or do you want me to jump in and scoot over here and read the first part?
I'm excited to watch you read.
I'm gonna move over here. We thought it would be easier if we set the book on the table. So let's see here. This is the introduction, and it is called Through My Eyes. When I was 15 months old, I had a brain tumor. To be more accurate, that's when the doctors diagnosed it and performed surgery. It had been there my entire short life, growing, expanding, and destroying. By the time it had reached the size of a malevolent apricot, it had stretched and damaged the optic nerve. My horizons were darkening. My world was going gray. By the day of the surgery, my vision was almost completely gone. And although the tumor was successfully removed, the destruction in its wake could never be repaired. Blind, my parents were told. Nothing anyone could do. No facial recognition, no color perception, no depth perception. If you're extremely lucky, maybe some light perception, but maybe not. Maybe nothing at all. Only time would tell. 30 plus years later, I homestead my own hobby farm called Golden Green in Northeast Kansas. I raise Nubian dairy goats. That means bottle feeding the babies, milking the moms, and making cheese, soap, and yogurt. I live with 10 dogs, and I train and show more than half of them in several competition sports. I walk miles with them every day. I love life. Physically speaking, the doctors were deadly accurate. My visual world is a muddle of light and dark, shadows and contrasts. Color is only a concept. Faces mean nothing to me, and that's just in my left eye. The right eye is totally dark. But there is a lot more to life than being able to see. Love, joy, courage, and endurance are not things you can see. Even beauty is not something you truly see. It's something you feel. That's why I've written this book. It's not meant to be a book about myself. It's a book about dogs, goats, and life on the land. It's about the sun and the wind and the seasons. It's about Kansas. If the stories inspire you, then I have done my work well. At the end of the day, remember the stories. Remember the challenge and the hope and the beauty that can be felt. As we journey through the next chapters together, come and catch the vision with me. Step out onto the windy Kansas prairie, love my dogs, meet my goats. Savor the struggle and the sweetness and the goodness of life. Because, to quote a line from the movie The Polar Express, seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. That is the end of the introduction. So I'm gonna set that over here out of my reach. And I've got a couple of pages that I'd like to read out of the summer, the introduction to the summer section. I hope that by me reading this, you guys will, all over the country out there, you will be swept into a Kansas summer. By mid-May, warm weather has really arrived. Not hot yet, but warm, tepid, and a bit lazy. Everything is green. Gardens are going in all over the place. The crop fields are rough with growth, and the farmers are cutting alfalfa in the hay fields. Everyone tied to the land watches the weather, scintillating between praying for rain when we've gone a week without, and begging for a dry spell if it's time to bale hay. The frogs are still trilling, a richer, more textured chorus now, with croaks, peeps, and twangs thrown in. All the migratory birds have returned from pilgrimage and now commence the hectic duties of building nests and raising babies. Lush and lavish life overflows the fields, ponds, and hills. The days lengthen and the sun strengthens. Twilight lingers until well past 9 in the evening, and dusk lingers far beyond that. Mornings are still fresh, sun-kissed, and dew-drenched, but the spring sparkle and softness have faded. These mornings are harder and shorter, the glaring sun drawing them swiftly upward and forward into long, smothering, sizzling days. June unfolds the humidity, shakes it out, and settles it like an eiderdown across her lap, across the steamy pastures and the sweltering cornfields. I push open my front door and pause on the patio, and the stifling wetness of the air engulfs me. It's like a woolen blanket just hauled out of the wash and barely wrung dry. It's hard to breathe. Plodding up the driveway, I plow through waves of humidity. They rise from the ground, from the depths of the deep grass, wet waves breaking over my legs and slapping into my face. Sweat. I drip with sweat, even just sitting at the milking stand. The big industrial barn fan roars at my shoulder, gallantly forcing out a breeze, and I still drip. 3 or 4 t-shirts flung into the laundry every day. Sweat, greasy and sticky with it. Sun, harsh and oppressive, bearing down on the land. The growing things love it. Everything else gravitates to the shade. The wind dies in June. The trees, full and vibrant green, stand motionless. The wind chimes rarely stir. The air lies limp and thick, drowsy in the heat. It feels unnatural to me. The very word Kansas translates to people of the south wind. And now, with the wind gone and silent, it seems to me that the entire known world struggles without air, fighting to draw breath. I open my own mouth and suck in a steamy lungful of humidity, gasp and try it again. Through the first part of July, the thunderstorms still come. Their mood has changed since the violent jubilation of spring. They are slower and more ponderous in the summer. They march soddenly across the plains, slow and deliberate, trudging under the great burden of the rain they carry. They dump rain in prodigious amounts, in torrents and solid walls of water. No longer the Lone Ranger supercells of wild spring, these are storm complexes. They cluster and congeal into massive rainmakers. They creep eastward at 10 to 15 miles per hour, drenching and deluging. 5, 6, even 7 inches of rain can fall in one storm. The gutters overflow, pouring water onto the patio so that it pools almost ankle deep. Even above the tumult of the rain and the continuous roll of thunder, I can still hear the guttural rushing of the creek. It's running high and fast, drunk on abundance, reeling with rain. There is no wind or hail. The storm has one purpose and one purpose only, to dump its staggering, stunning, soaking cargo of rain. July and August, though, turn dry. The earth and fields bake brown. The sky heightens and hardens into shimmering brass. Dust rises from the gravel roads like smoke. The air dries. Its perfume deepens from the sweetness of clover and honeysuckle to the fragrance of baking bread, frankincense, and rich iced tea. The grasses crisp and scorch. The weeds still thrive, thick in the ditches and along the fence rows. The sunflowers lift their tawny heads, smiling up into the burning and glorious face of heaven. Are you warm now?
I'm warmer, Reyna. Thank you. Boy, you really capture hot, humid, muggy Kansas summer. I have a final question for you, and that is, what do you think is easier, training a dog or writing a book?
I love this question. I think it's a toss-up. I know it sounds like I'm passing that off, but there's a lot of similarities. Sometimes dogs and books both have bad days. Sometimes, I can't force it. I can't force myself to write. If I'm not in the mood, I can't write a book. If I'm not in the mood, I can't train a dog. And sometimes the dog, just doesn't have a good day either. And I mean, how do I want to say this? If I have a dog that's being difficult, I do make sure that I get what I'm asking for, but I surround it with a lot of fun. So, it's just, you can't force the issue, I think would be one thing, especially with writing. On the other hand, there are days when I'll sit down to write for like half an hour, and 2 hours later, I'm like, wow, I got a lot done. And by the same token, sometimes it amazes me how quickly a dog will learn something. Like, for instance, when I was teaching Tassie the take a bow command, that's kind of an advanced trick. It takes a lot of dogs a lot of time to learn how to take a bow. She learned it in like 5 minutes. It was not a big deal. It's one of her tricks, and for some reason, it was just something that she got. So in that way, I would say they're very similar. I would say too, probably at a deeper level, both of them are a process for sure. It's a labor of love. Training a dog is a labor of love. Writing a book is a labor of love. You commit to doing this it took me about a year to write this book. And as I say, sometimes it doesn't come easy, but you have to keep in mind the end point that you're looking for. And that way, when you get bogged down in the discouragements, or a dog that you put in the show ring and he forgets everything he ever knew, or she acts like, well, I don't know you. I'm not. Who are you? I'm just going to leave the ring. When you encounter those moments, if you keep the end process or the end goal and working process in mind, it makes things. You have to hang on to that, and it'll give you success eventually. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities between those two things. That's a great question.
Well, Reyna, I'm excited that you can still continue to write. And in fact, do you want to share your next project, and tell people about it? I'm going to show a little mock-up here, a little screen. Okay.
We are, Thea has kind of suggested, and I grabbed it and ran with it. We're going to do a dog training book. It's called How to Train Your Best Friend, which I think is funny. 20 things every owner should do to raise a dog right. And the idea is to, take 20 things that I've found helpful to raise my own dogs and share them with readers.
Well, people who have read your book, or I'm sure are excited about reading it now, probably want to know what is going on at the farm at Golden Green. And so a way that they can stay in touch with what's happening is to look at your website, reynawrites.com. And Reyna, when you told me you wanted each dog to have their own page on the website, I said yes, kind of forgetting that you had so many dogs. But underneath the dogs, each dog has their own page with pictures and their personality traits, information about the dogs. And then also, you started writing a blog a few months ago, right? And I think you're doing a blog. It's really cool. I love it. I love hearing about all of the amazing, crazy, funny, touching things that are going on at Golden Green. And so again, people, if you can find your blog at reynawrites.com, and you're you're writing quite a bit. I think that's terrific. The other thing that we're working on is just kind of in the infancy right now is getting a YouTube channel, Sunshine and Reyna, going. And as I mentioned earlier, the video that you saw tonight, we'll post that up there as well. Now, this is kind of a personal appeal. So Reyna, don't listen. She doesn't consume social media the way the rest of us does. In fact, she thought kind of my obsession with it was a little nuts when we first started working together. So I would appreciate it if all of you would consider becoming a social media warrior for Reyna. Now, if this is going to be a volunteer job, but it's going to have a lot of benefits, probably a tour of the farm and some other fun things that Reyna and I and her mother Donna will cook up. But if you're interested in making a commitment to help us share this amazing woman's platform, contact me at thea@flinthillspublishing.com and we'll figure out some cool strategies. Donna is Reyna's mother, and she and Reyna love to give gifts. And so when we were talking about doing tonight, we wanted to do prizes, right? So we have 3 different prizes, or 2 of the same, and then a third. So do you want to tell us what the prize is, Reyna?
Absolutely. This is, if I can hold them up here for people to see. These are bars of goat milk soap. This is homemade soap. Yes, you can use it on your hands, your face, or in the shower. It's perfectly safe. It smells really good and it's really creamy, nice stuff. This comes from my own personal goats, people. This is from my own farm. I believe Novel and Poplin were the 2 goats that contributed. And then we have a bottle of homemade goat milk lotion. I love this stuff. I have skin allergies. My skin is like super sensitive to different chemicals, and it loves this lotion. It's very creamy and soft, and your skin will love it. So I think we're going to give away two packages like that, and then a third prize.
That's it. Okay, I have everybody who registered. My husband helped me cut up little slips of paper with everybody's name on it. So, okay, let's pull out the first winner of the goat milk soap and lotion is. Of course, I can't read it. Gretchen Carlisle. Gretchen, I have your email, and I'll get in touch with you, and we'll get it to you. All right. The next set of the goat milk products goes to Judy Morrison.
Cool. Hey.
Okay. And then the other, well, of course, what kind of publisher would I be if I didn't give away a copy of Reyna's book? And then also, hopefully you'll be inspired to do your own writing. So it comes with a little journal as well, too. So let's see. Here's the winner there. And that is Dorothy Wishmeyer.
Yay,
so I will.
Dorothy got one.
No, Dorothy, great. So I'll get everybody's mailing address, and there you go. Okay, well, if you've noticed, I want to say thank you to Lynn Murphy. Lynn is actually the newest Flint Hills Publishing author. She's also a tech wizard, and she's been behind the scenes helping us with some things tonight. And she's opened up everybody, so you can either raise your hand and use your microphone and ask a question, or if you want to just give us a question in the chat. Oh, we already have a question, Reyna. Ani wants to know, is your lotion and soap available online?
Ooh, want to put it on the website, Tina?
Make that great idea. We'll get to we'll add that to the.
But hey, that's a thought. Not yet. We take special orders, so we love making friends.
Okay, great. All right. Go ahead and ask a question in the chat, or Lynn, if you see someone with their hand raised, let me know. We'll call on them.
We did have a hand raised. Steve.
Go ahead.
Steve Sushlin and Jerry Blessingame, if you would mute your computer, mute your microphone, and hearing your background.
Yeah, I can do some. Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
there was survival mode for a while.
Okay. I'm
And then
sorry. We've got a lot of
finally in
feedback. Okay.
February,
Well, I'm going to ask a question that was sent in, Reyna. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. You're
Okay.
good.
And that question is, when you are all done with your work for the day, what do you like to do for fun?
And when would that be? No, um, yeah, no, seriously, it is a good question. Man, and you know, fun is kind of like seasonal for me because the busiest time of my year is spring and the calmest time of the year is winter. So yeah, we all need to kind of plan for fun stuff, right? I mean, especially those of us who are super busy and those of us who are caretakers, I think, you know, we do really need, those of us who are moms, we need to set aside mommy time. And for me, I would say I find a lot of joy and I guess restoration is a good word in music. Um, in pre-COVID days, I was in several different choirs over several different years, a church choir and then a couple of civic choirs as well. And I love that, not just the mingling and actually being with people my own age for a change, going to the rehearsal, but also through the week singing and practicing. You know, I would just pull up the songs we were going to do on YouTube. Usually I could find them and I would just sing through them. And that just, it's amazing what kind of joy and healing, just, you know, the frayed edges of your average day healing that would give me. I would also say I do, and it takes planning, but I do like to go on day trips. So, especially my mom and I, we've gone to different places. We've gone up to the Omaha Zoo. We've gone to the River Market in Kansas City. I've gone out to Lindsborg, Kansas. You know, just I need to plan it into my schedule, but I mean, I can, you know, I can make it happen, and that's just fun to get away for a little while. And I would also say, as funny as it is, I like to watch movies. If there's anything good out, which is an if, but as long as there's something out there in the theaters, I love going to the movie theater, sitting there and enjoying the surround sound and enjoying another really good story.
Hmm. Karen wants to know if you could tell us about your rats and your plans for barn hunts. Somebody's been reading your blog.
Somebody's been meeting my rats. She's got some up close and personal views of the rats. I do. I have pet rats. I have 6 of them. And we're probably going to add a few more, not immediately, so mom and dad don't have a panic attack. But the idea is that rats, there's a sport called barn hunt, and it's a real sport with the American Kennel Club. It's supposed to recreate the working environment of a working terrier. So, you know, in the past, terriers would be brought to a farm and run through the farmers' barns and locate the rats that would, you know, destroy the grain and just dirty everything in the barn. So today, this is an actual sport that's open to all breeds, not just terriers. And what they do is they have these tubes made of PVC pipe, and you stash a rat in each tube. It's got air vents and mesh on the end so the rat can see and breathe. And the judge will hide these tubes throughout a course of hay bales. And you and the dog don't know where the rats are. So you go into the ring with your dog, turn it loose, and the dog is supposed to find and indicate the rats. And it's a lot of fun. The dogs have such a good time. They run through tunnels in the hay bales and they dig through the hay. And I've got Tassie, Cinder, and Butterscotch are my 3 that are involved with this, with the 6 rats.
Will you ask Mom to take some video of that so we could post that on your YouTube
Oh,
channel?
wouldn't that be fun? We would love that.
Jeffrey would like to know, how has the pandemic affected you?
Oh my goodness. You know, it was funny because when all the news about COVID came down in like March, I was having babies. I had, okay, not me, but my girls had 3 sets of triplets, 2 of them in 24 hours, and 4 sets of twins. And that happened in March and April, and I did not even know the outside world existed. I was at home. I would have been at home regardless. And so it was like the rest of the world was shutting down. I'm like, what's all your all's problem? You know, I'd be stuck at home anyway. I think there was a time probably in late March that I didn't get out. Well, I walked the dogs, but I didn't get into a vehicle for 2 weeks. It was weird. I'm not saying that I really like that, because I do, as I said, I like going different places, but it was funny how the pandemic coincided with my busiest time of the year. And so I would have been locked down anyway.
Natalie wants to know, would you visit a school and present your book and explain your life?
Do the children bite? Oh man. No, as long as they're on leash and they've had all their shots, I wouldn't mind. I might need a handler though, so just keep me posted.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We have let's see. Joseph had his hand raised. Joseph, do you want to turn on your mic and ask Reyna a question?
Yes, hello.
Hey, thanks
Hi.
for coming.
Yeah, I wanted to know the data bank that you use when you're writing in your imagination, did it come from reading a lot as a child or just having wonderful parents that talked to you a lot and gave you images?
So like the description thing. Yeah, that's funny. I've been asked that before. How do I, if I can't see them, how do I come up with such vivid descriptions? I would say yes. Part of that, the answer to that is that, again, thank you, Mom and Dad, for reading to me so much when I was a kid. And nowadays, I am a ferocious, voracious reader. I have to have like 2 to 3 books going at one time. And so I continue to make entries in my data banks, as you say. But I would say too, the other part of it is just not being able to see. You learn to use your other senses, and you learn to be observant. I mean, as somebody who does live alone and who lives on the land and who does take dogs out and have, my dogs depending on me on the road, I've got to be observant. And so I think taking that sensitivity, if you will, and sort of combining it with my love for vivid language and, and my love for Kansas and the environment around me, that's where I've drawn a lot of my inspiration.
Do you use audiobooks a lot?
Yes, I use audiobooks. I love Braille, as you saw me reading the Braille book. I love Braille. I firmly advocate Braille, but I don't sit down in an average day and I can't read Braille. So what I love about audiobooks is that I can read them while I'm bottle feeding babies. I can listen to audiobooks when I'm washing dishes, folding the laundry, etc. So yeah, I love audiobooks. I would be lost without them.
Great.
Reyna,
Thank you.
thank you, Joseph. One of the things I was surprised about the first time I read through your book was that you'll use phrases like, and the dog smiled. And my question to you was, well, how did you know that? So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's that would come down to, I'm going to dovetail a little bit off of what I just said, that you can hear a dog smile. I mean, if you know what their normal sounds are, you can hear the open mouth panting and the wagging tail, and then you can also feel, I mean, having been around animals a lot, and those of you who are around kids a lot, I mean, you can feel their mood. And I know that sounds sort of existential, but it's not. It's just a matter of being accustomed to something and then being able to feel it and go with whatever emotion those around you are experiencing.
Thank you. Steve Sushland, do you have your question? Steve, do you have your mic open? Okay. Reyna, let me ask you another question that was sent. Oh, Steve, are you there?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's still here. I don't see him.
All right.
On here.
Well, we had another question sent in, Reyna, and that was, how do you know a dog has the qualities that are needed to be either a working dog or a competitive dog?
Good question. There are some things I look for. One of them is the breed. Now, I'm not going to say, because people are going to jump on me, I'm not going to say that certain breeds can never be obedience competition dogs or agility competition dogs or whatever. But I have certain breeds that I like and certain traits that I like. Most of the breeds I like are high energy, athletic dogs. They have a lot of drive, as we like to say. They're very athletic. they have a lot of work ethic. When I'm actually sitting down to pick a puppy, if I'm given that option, sometimes the breeder will match a puppy with me. Banner was matched with me, and so was Butterscotch. But if I'm actually sitting down, like this little guy I've got at my feet, Cinder, I picked him out of the litter. And I tend to look for a dog that is not incredibly all over the place and leading the charge. And I look for one that's not hanging back in the wings, in the shadows. I look for one that's in the middle and that is interactive without being pushy. I look for a dog that takes direction, I like to say. One that follows instead of charging ahead. I like one that will stay with you and look up to you as a puppy. And then from there, you kind of just shape behavior. You learn what the dog enjoys. I don't force all of my dogs to do obedience. If they don't like it, then we don't have to do it. You learn what they like and you learn what they're good at, and you just work from there and have fun with your dog.
Well, Reyna, it's been a lot of fun to be with you tonight. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. You can find Reyna's book, In My Hands, Stories of the Land and Animals I Love But Can't See, on Amazon or wherever books are sold. And I hope you'll check out her website and follow her blog. And Reyna, thanks so much for spending time with us tonight. And thanks to Cinder too, and your mother, Donna.
Yes, bye. Thanks so much, everybody. It's been a joy and a pleasure to be with you. I hope you really enjoyed the time. I know I did.
Theo, we do have one more question if we have time for it.
We do. Oh, okay.
Sure.
And if anybody has other questions, I don't know if they know how to raise their hand, but would be happy to take those verbally too.
Yeah, just jump in. I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Excuse me.
You see that one? It says, how do you keep up with the maintenance and upkeep of 10 dogs? Do you take them to a groomer?
I'll jump in and just answer that. I'm not sure who asked it, but again, a good question. Yeah, there's a stereotype of a blind person living alone with 10 dogs. You kind of have to be aware and smart about it, and don't take on more than you can handle. My quick answer is I don't have children. My long answer is I knew what I was getting into. I would not do this if I didn't enjoy it. There's a lot to be said for just plain old touch. I can tell when this little guy needs a bath, and it's not just because they smell disgusting. Their coats actually do feel like they need to be bathed. It's a commitment, and it keeps me accountable too. That's another good thing that the animals have done for me is they do, as I said, they make me move forward. They let me pay attention to somebody other than myself. So just because it was specifically asked, yes, I do use a groomer for the golden doodle. As you could tell by the pictures, he is due for a clip, but I like fur. Okay. I like touching fur. So I do use a groomer for him. This little guy, Cinder, does not require a groomer. I do all the brushing and bathing myself otherwise.
Okay, I think Joseph has another question. Go ahead, Joseph.
Yes, hi. Is your book an audio book also?
We are working on it. Thank you for asking. Yeah, that was something we started to pursue, and we just had so much else coming down that we decided to kind of put the audiobook on hold, but it'll happen. It's on the bucket list, and I will be reading it because I don't want other people to read my audiobook, but I want people to listen to my audiobook, but it will be read by the author.
Okay, wonderful.
We'll push that up higher on the list, right, Reyna?
Next year.
Okay. Well, are there any other questions? Just go ahead and unmute your mic and jump in. You've done such a great job explaining everything. Terrific. Reyna, as always, it's a pleasure. Oh, there's Ann Palmer.
I just wondered, hi, Reyna. I wondered if you had a sequel.
Well, I don't have, the next book we're going to work on is How to Train Your Best Friend. So technically that's not really a sequel. It definitely runs with the dog training motif, obviously, but it's not going to be anything that ties in directly to what I've written. I will use my own personal dogs as examples in the book. However, I have a project way down the pike, which will probably be called Raising a Banner, and that's about my newest dogs, Banner and Scotch. A lot of the dogs that I have written about in this book, In My Hands, are are fairly elderly. Some of them have aged out of obedience and other work by now. But my young dogs, Banner and Scotch, will probably get their own book. It's just going to take a few years. So that will kind of be a sequel.
Good, thank you.
And Ann Palmer, thank you for taking such beautiful pictures
They
that
are-
are featured in the book, and that is the cover of the book.
My pleasure.
Debbie wants to know if your book's available in Braille now.
It is not, there isn't a lot of demand for Braille. Right now, everybody's going audio and digital. So before getting a Braille book out there, we do definitely want to do the audio book because there will be a lot more people that will want it. Unfortunately, not yet. I would love to make it available in Braille, but we're going to do the audio first.
And we did check into that, and it was stunningly expensive. Yes, it was. Yeah. Cynthia wants you to get the book at the Round Table Bookstore in Noto. We'll work on that. Michelle wants to know, do you ever allow visitors to your farm? Well, we've talked about that if they become a social media warrior for Reyna. But there you go, Reyna. You can sell goat's milk and do farm tours.
Yeah.
Diversifying.
Hey, Michelle, when I have 20 babies this coming spring, you can come and do all the bottle feeding. I would love the help.
Okay, I think if I caught all the questions in the chat, or if somebody else has another question, they want to just open their mic and ask, that's great.
I think Debbie has her hand raised.
Yes. My name is Debbie, and I've been a teacher for the blind and visually impaired for 36 years. And I just found out like an hour ago that you were doing this. I had not heard about this before. So I am thrilled to have gotten to watch this. But I will say, when you're looking for, I don't know what it entails to be a social media warrior, but we in Wichita, I have a bunch of blind and visually impaired students, and I just would love them to connect with you somehow. We are signing up for whatever we could do to meet you.
I'm so excited that you came. Thank you for offering. Yeah, you and Thea can hash out the details, but man, welcome aboard.
Debbie, got your name. Thank you so much. That's terrific.
Yeah, wonderful.
You are to watch you read. I mean, I absolutely love teaching Braille, and to listen to you and watch you read Braille. You're a perfect example for what we try to teach them. So I'd love for you to connect somehow and to have you mentor maybe.
Yes. Just keep me posted. Seriously, I would be happy to.
I have a question.
And if you need your book put in Braille, maybe we can help with that too.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah,
That's great.
Sure.
There was someone else had a question?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Do you read Braille music?
Oh my goodness, I have tried and I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. Part of the problem was that when I was trying to read it, I was also trying to play an instrument, and it was piano. My mom is a piano teacher. So of course, when I was 8 years old, she stuck me behind the keyboard. And I gained an incredible love and appreciation for all kinds of music, but I did not learn to play the piano very well. I tried reading Braille music. I tried reading I did have a book that taught how to do it, but it just didn't, it was not something that I really could use. And so most of the time I've done everything by ear, which is fairly simple when you're singing. Now, when it comes to playing the hammered dulcimer, like I've tried to do in the past few years, it gets a little harder.
Is it true too that you play the harp, or you did when you were younger?
I did. I did yes, I used to, and then I got bored because it wasn't very hard. And I picked the real challenge and jumped in and started playing the hammered dulcimer, which is an extremely challenging temperamental instrument. And I do still have one, but I have set it aside for now. I got involved with dairy goats instead, but I do have one and I love the sound of it.
I think a lot of people are coming up with some great ideas, Reyna, to help promote your book. Gretchen mentioned that the Missouri Department of Corrections prepares some Braille books.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've got some people volunteering to be social media warriors for you. People are getting excited thinking about ways to promote your platform. You're an inspiration and you inspire others. See, I've been telling you that. Now maybe you'll believe me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
Could I speak up?
Oh, please, Charlotte, go ahead.
I see Renee walk the road every day that she walks. She goes by my house. Her dogs, it's amazing to me when she hears a vehicle. These dogs all come to her, and it's just amazing. She's inspiring to know that someone that's blind. When I started working on my house, I had no idea that she was blind. And then my son, who lives close to me, was telling me, you're just amazing. It's just, one day I saw you walking and the temperature was way down, and I don't know how come I was out, but anyway, I made the comment to you, it is too cold out here for you. And you just walked on. But you're amazing. God has blessed you.
Yes, he has. I know, and I'm extremely favored, and I am very, very thankful. And I really do thank you, because I try mostly to stay out of everyone's way. And if I pass a house with dogs and neighbors, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, let's keep going. So thank you for kind of giving me some encouragement, because being a road warrior can be hard work. But
you do a great job.
Thanks. I really do appreciate it.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, Reyna, I've really enjoyed tonight. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Tell your mom, Donna, thank you for all the great work on taking those videos. And
She did a great job. My mom is like my photographer, and yeah, she does a great job.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, and stay safe. And we'll have to do this again sometime. Are you up for it, Reyna?
I think I can be up for it. I think Cinder wouldn't mind either.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone.